Then our Christmas Eve service, it begins at 5 o'clock. It's a candlelight service, and each household is going to receive a gift from a new friend that I made from a local company called Lux Layers. And they make really cool 3D printed things that you can buy at Shindig and other places. And they're going to be making our gift that we give out each year at our Christmas Eve service, one for each household. So that's going to be a great service. So plan on being there. If you want to bring family, friends, you certainly can. Like any Christmas Eve service, a lot of in most churches, you might want to come early. Sometimes it gets rather filled up quickly, so that's an important thing. But I want to mention too that our next men's ministry is going to be Thursday, December 19th at my house. So we're gonna have a nice time. We're actually in a Bible study right now, and so leads a great discussion and just a nice time. We have dinner, and you don't have to bring anything other than yourself. So women's ministry, they're going to have a fellowship event at my house. I'll say Tracy's home for women's ministry, our house at 6:30. So ladies, you're asked to sign up on the bulletin board if you can come. And if you do come, you can bring your favorite Christmas dessert or cookies. So that's two things coming up rather quickly, actually, because tomorrow's the 9th already. So be sure to sign up for the women's ministry. Guys, you can just show up if you want to be a part of that. And then one of the new things that we're starting, thanks to Marie Schramm, is a prayer ministry, okay, a formalized one. And so I'm going to ask Marie, would you mind sharing a little bit about this? You want to come up here or? Okay, well, yeah, why don't you come up here, because then our folks online can listen. Marie Schramm.
Thank you. When Pastor Bob announced about prayer for Radiant Fellowship and for bringing in new members, something really switched on inside of me. And I prayed, and the Lord gave me some scriptures that we can all pray. He reminded me that prayer happens in the Spirit, and so we don't have to gather together. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to have a special time. Whatever works for you, pray for the church and pray for new families coming in. He's asking us for half an hour a day. At your convenience, split it up if you need to, but when you can, when you feel it in your heart, when he prompts you, say a prayer. He gave me some scriptures, specifically Psalm 144 through Psalm 150. These are Psalms of praise, and we know that God inhabits the prayers of his people. And so he will be with us in those prayers. And so say, if you read through those Psalms, if you pray them, don't just read them, it takes about 15 minutes to get through those particular Psalms. And so if you did that a couple of times a day, you'd have a half an hour. You would give him his time. There are loads of scriptures that praise him. And so those are the ones he gave to me. If you wish to have a contact point, if you wish to discuss what you're feeling in your prayer, what you are hearing from the Lord, I'll be available. I'll put my cell phone number on the bulletin board, and you can call me and we can touch base. We can get together if we want to. We can talk on the phone. We can form an actual team if anyone is interested in that. But if the whole church goes at this, we can do it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Marie. And we'll get that out, the phone number, like she said, up on the bulletin board, and we'll also be promoting this through our e-newsletter that we send out every Wednesday. So I really appreciate you taking that and running that, encouraging the church, because prayer moves mountains, and it's always encouraging to have people, I know a lot of us, all of us pray for the church, but have a dedicated time, and the scripture, Psalm 144 through 150. That's great. All right. Well, thank you. This morning's message is one that I've just simply entitled A Hush Rather Than a Rush. And I know that this time of year, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of parties going on. And as we enter the Christmas season, it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of everything. And not to say that it's not a bad thing, okay? But inevitably, what happens when we get so busy, so involved? It's like a vacation. It's like if you ever taken a kid to Great America or Disney World or whatever, and that's your vacation. It's, as adults, the kids love it, and the adults do too. But it's almost like you need a vacation from the vacation, all right, after it's done. And the Christmas season, sometimes it can get so busy, so overwhelming with different parties. I'm looking at my calendar, and it's paced out well, but still there's a lot going on in what's happening. And the shopping, the parties, the preparations. The heart of Christmas calls us really to slow down and to reflect and really to savor the moments, because inevitably we watch that Christmas movie, right? What's a favorite Christmas movie of people in here? It's a Wonderful Life. Yes. Die Hard. Wow. Okay. What? Elf. Yeah. Okay. For me, Christmas Story, Ralphie. I like those. Yes. Miracle on 34th Street. Any others that we're missing? Well, the thing about these movies, not so much Die Hard, but that's like saying Gremlins is a Christmas movie. It technically is, but I remember my dad taking me as a little boy to go see those. But there's those moments in the movies where everything's busy, and Miracle on 34th Street, and It's a Wonderful Life, and there's a backstory going on, but then there's the big culmination where everybody's in the house singing, and for the Christmas Story with Ralphie and Randy, and it's everything from Show Me How a Piggy Eats to You'll Shoot Your Eye Out, and then it all ends at the calm at the end of the movie where they're opening gifts and taking in the evening and all of that. And today we're going to explore how we can transform our busy experiences into those moments of like, those are the cool parts of the movies where everything's settled down and you're just like, wow, this is really the true meaning. There's a scene in and I realize it's a little more off the wall Christmas movie. There's a scene in the Christmas Vacation, okay? And there's a scene that as we get older, the scene resonates more with us. It's not the Jelly of the Month Club, okay? It's not or Cousin Eddie or any of those. It's the part where he's sitting there watching a reel-to-reel film of his family and just taking in the moment. Those are especially a moment in life that as you get older, you're like, wow, we really cherish those times that you can sit and look back and take that all in. And that's the thrust of this, is to align our hearts with the true spirit of the season. And as we do this, we can look at some examples in Scripture. Of course, there's multiple examples in Scriptures. There's the example of Mary's response. Okay, in Luke chapter 1, verses 38, I am the Lord's servant, Mary answered, may your word to me be fulfilled. Then the angel left her. Now we know what news Mary got, right? I mean, we know the Christmas story inside and out. Mary received the news of Christ's coming with a calm and willing heart. There's a lot of moments where we receive news, our world's about to get flipped upside down, and we panic a little bit. We look at our calendar of the month to come. I look at my volunteer Christmas parties, family Christmas party, immediate family get, the time we celebrate, and all the little things in between. And, you throw a concert in there, you throw just life in there, and you start thinking any little disturbance at this point could knock everything off its axis. Okay. However, you look at something like Mary's facing, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. For the angel to come and her to receive the news that she will be basically giving birth to Jesus Christ. And she receives this news with a calm and willing heart. She demonstrated a deep trust in God's plan, embracing the moment rather than rushing to conclusions or distractions and all of those things that come with it. Instead of rushing to check off our to-do list, let's take time in prayer to reflect on what God is speaking to us. This is what Marie encouraged us with this morning. There's a lot of things, a lot of good things that we can do. There are a lot of things that draw our attention, a lot of different organizations that want our time. And they're probably all good. But there comes a point where you have to set up boundaries because you need to take care of yourself. I remember watching and I may have shared this story, but I'm not sure. I'm 50 now, so just bear with me. No, but there's a story where Jerry Seinfeld was approached by another celebrity. And the celebrity asked Jerry Seinfeld, did you really just turn down Oprah and her Africa missions thing, project that she has going on? And he said, yeah, I did. Jerry's a straight shooter. He's like, yeah, I did. Because I'm already helping out a few different places. And they got to the point where they were discussing, got a little heated. And Jerry Seinfeld said, it's not that I don't think anything less of that organization. What she's doing over there is a great work, all of that. And, it was interesting conversation. He goes, but I dial in on what I do, and I do it very well. And I take care of myself through the process. Because if I gave myself to every little thing, I wouldn't be here today. And I thought that's very good. One of the most popular books in Christian literature is a self-help book called Boundaries. All right. And what's interesting about that book is it remains one of the best sellers in Christianity. But how many times have somebody in this room, have we put boundaries into place in our life, and someone might get a little offended because you just said, no, I can't make it. Or you're saying, no, I don't have time today. We make time for what's important, really. Family, church, God, work, these things. And going into this season, going into the Christmas season, Mary reminds us that even when we are confronted with something big, that we can take heart and realize that we can embrace stillness, allowing God to fill our hearts with peace and purpose. Sometimes that comes at the end of the night. I think that's why more and more people are setting up their Christmas trees early. I read somewhere that for every Christmas light that goes on before Christmas, an elf takes out a baby reindeer. I'm not sure if that's true. No, but it's a meme that I showed Hermie holding Rudolph. And it's interesting, the mindset that's going around right now. I think there's something deeper in the psyche about this. The Christmas trees are going up even earlier than after Thanksgiving. And the common thread you see among that is, I love turning off the lights at night and just sitting in the solace of the Christmas lights. That's a huge indicator of saying we long for that in our life, to have that calm moment. And the world is so crazy right now. It's no wonder that people are setting up Christmas trees early, enjoying the festive season more. I mean, I listen to my Christmas music on Sirius XM, and I listen to holiday traditions and stations like that. And used to be the day after Thanksgiving, all those channels go live. Now it's like 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. I think it's just because people, we're so tightly wound that people are looking for something to relax in. And really, a lot of things in Christmas time brings that, but it's ultimately relaxing on our Lord and Savior, and realizing the message of what he's doing for us and has done for us. So there's the example of Mary's response. There's finding peace in the shepherd's watch. In Luke chapter 2, 8-11, it says, and there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all people. So the shepherds were doing their ordinary, quiet task when the angel of the Lord broke through the silence of the night with an announcement of Jesus' birth. And I like how just about every time an angel shows up in the Bible story, that they say, do not be afraid. I mean, Let's be honest there. Let's put ourselves in those stories. We're probably going to be a little afraid at that moment, but they always say, do not be afraid. They did not rush. Instead, they listened. They were filled with awe and took the time to respond. And that's an indicator that really in the busyness of life, we often miss miraculous moments that God is orchestrating for us. We can get so wrapped up in everything that we forget to look back and say, wow, what a great God we serve. What an awesome moment I just had with this person. What an awesome time that I was able to volunteer there, to offer an encouraging phone call, to take a friend out for coffee. Those are miraculous moments because this time of year, it's hard to get people's attention for a lot of people. But when you're able to reach out and take some time for somebody out of the busyness of life, even just sitting back and realizing and reflecting on where you are at today because of God's goodness. It's miraculous what God has brought us through again this last year. And now we're days away, weeks away from ending another year, moving into 2025. Hard to believe the whole Y2K thing is almost 25 years old. Remember that? Your computers are going to crash. The world was in a tizzy, all of these things because the Windows operating system couldn't, and a lot of computer operating systems, they weren't sure if it's going to flip over to 2000. And as a geek, I'm sitting back there, where I was on Y2K? I was sitting in a hotel room in Jacksonville, Florida by myself with all my snacks, just wondering if the apocalypse is going to happen. I knew it wasn't, but it was one of those moments. And it sounds really weird. Why was Pastor Bob in a hotel by himself in Jacksonville? I had a hit. No, I'm just joking. It was my guy at our church, Jack Malio. If you ever go through downtown Milwaukee, you see a truck that says Malio Produce. He owned that company. His uncle worked for Al Capone, but we don't talk about that. And so Jack Malio, he was a snowbird, very well-to-do, and him and his wife Helen would go down to St. Pete Beach in January at the tail end of December. And so he'd fly down there, and he'd pay me to drive his car down there. And when I got there, I could stay a week, and then I'd fly home on his dime. And then in April, I would do it again. Okay, pretty cool gig for a single youth pastor, And so, but I remember sitting in the hotel room on Y2K and I'm thinking, I'm getting a little panicky. I'm like, it's tech stuff. Like, this will flip right over. And it did. But, that was an indicator of how life goes, even more so when you're an adult. You start hearing rumblings over there. You start hearing news of what's happening over there. You're hearing news out of another country today, sort of different areas of the world that are in upheaval. And yet they found peace through all of that. These were shepherds. They had full-time jobs. They were doing these things. And yet in the business of life, they found miraculous moments that God is orchestrating. So I would encourage us as we look at that story of Luke 2, 8-11, to let us set aside some time to simply listen to God. To set aside time to be with our loved ones. And to the wonder that surrounds us. By creating space for contemplation, we can embrace the true joy of this season. Sitting down and diving in on the Christmas story, reading the scriptures, reading a good book that points us to this story. Enjoying the songs of this season. There are so many, of course, there's so many Christmas songs, but there are a lot of good ones that come out of the Christian movement as well, Christian music movement. Songs that cause us to reflect and look back and to think on these things, to find peace. What's interesting is to find peace, it's like finding vacation. You have to schedule it in today's world. There's a lot of times that just say, you know what? I'm setting this time slot. It's going to be my time. And again, boundaries. I'm going to say no. During this time, I'm gonna tell them that I love them, but I'm gonna say no because I need my time to take in and relax and renew and refresh my mind, my heart, my relationship with Christ. But then there's a call to rest. In Matthew 11:28-30 says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest in your souls." So Jesus invites us to come and find rest in him. That's actually a huge part of finding sanity in this world. I feel guilty. I think now this is just an assumption here, so don't get mad at me. This is just an assumption. I think guys have an easier time finding time to take a nap than ladies do. Okay? Just going off of maybe what my wife has said, okay? When I'm like, go take a nap, and it's not because of a fallout or anything. I see she's tired. She just got home, and maybe she's overworked and, it's a stressful day. I mean, stressful days are relative, right? I mean, I can go into a Subway, and to that guy, a stressful day is they're 7 subs behind, okay? Some of us would be like, I long for that stressful day, being 7 subs behind. For Tracy, a stressful day is getting a 2-pound baby that's on life support and working one-on-one with multiple babies, okay? So stress is relative, but I've told her, go take a nap. You deserve that. I could be doing something else. I could get something else done. Guys are just like, okay, I'll just sit down here and just, it's one of those things. What are you thinking of? My wife will rattle off 100 things. And I know I have a lot of other friends that would say the same. They'll rattle off a bunch of things. A guy, what are you thinking of? Nothing. Just not, I remember one time I responded to Tracy, taking a nap. I remember one time I responded to Tracy, I'm thinking of what if R2D2 actually could use a lightsaber? That sort of thing. Like, wow, that's a deep thought, It's just one of those things. But, it's okay. When I used to go on silent prayer retreats, it was at the St. Norbert Abbey in Green Bay. And the retreat director would give us our first assignment, and we'd go back to our room and reflect and all of that. This was our first break after arriving there. Inevitably, I'd go walk for a tea down the hall and bring it back to my room and read in. And as you walk down the hall, you hear different rooms, different pastors sawing logs in their room, snoring. And it was, and so the retreat director addressed that at the next one. He goes, that's actually a huge part of reconnecting with God, is finding rest. Taking time to say, this time is for me. I need to find some peace. And so to take a nap, to rest up, that renews us. It does something on the physical side and does something spiritually with our connection to God. So let's take Jesus at his word and intentionally prioritize rest during this time of year. It's okay to find rest. My Uncle Nat, he was an evangelist. One of the few evangelists that would go travel to churches, speak, and play an accordion. All right. But this was the 60s and 70s. And Uncle Nat, at every Thanksgiving get together at their house, my Aunt Shirley, she just passed away a couple months ago. So now we have all we have there is the memories. But Uncle Nat, he was a shorter guy, robust, and would find his rest at family get-togethers. Otherwise, he's traveling. Sometimes Aunt Shirley would go with, and she'd bring her accordion too. You can imagine how things went. Okay. But he had a nationally syndicated radio show called Family Time Ministries, and was just a busy guy. But Uncle Nat, after the Thanksgiving dinner, he would go upstairs, and you wouldn't see him for the next hour. He'd be passed out in his bedroom. And I'm like, you know what? That's kind of cool, actually. But it was just him saying, you know what? This is my border. This is my boundary. I'll see you guys later. This is when families would get together for the whole day, right? Remember those times? Now it's like 2 hours and gone, on to the next thing. But this is when it was a big deal. And I always admired that about him, saying, I have boundaries. I know when I need to take a break. So whether it's through quiet reflection, family time, or simply enjoying a cup of coffee by the fire, or just by your Christmas tree and enjoying the lights, we got to find rest in him to allow our souls to be rejuvenated. And why? Because it's all about the pursuit of love. My last point. 1 John chapter 4, 9 through 11 states, this is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. So it's all about that, this part here, that he has loved us so much. The essence of Christmas is love. God's great love for us demonstrated through the gift of his son. And I can tell you, if you need to realize how much people need to smile more, go ring bells at Pick and Save or Fleet Farm. We did that last weekend with our youth group, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of shenanigans. People were not bored when they walked up on Jeremy's side blasting music. My side was blasting music. His was a little more on the rock side. Mine was more on the Burl Ives and stuff like that. But it was interesting. People would come walking in and go around us, and you'd say Merry Christmas, or you'd say, "Hi, how are you this afternoon?" And sometimes not a response, just boom, right in. And it's one of those things, like, even if you don't give money, I'm going to give you a warm greeting. We're going to say hi, and as you leave, we're going to say have a great day. Because a person ringing a bell really shouldn't judge somebody if you haven't given it that kettle, because you probably have been hit up at Fleet Farm and other places. So, but there are a lot of unhappy people. There are a lot of unhappy people out there. You saw a lot of them, Jeremy, right? And this world needs to experience the essence of Christmas, which is love, God's great love for us. In our rush, we can't forget the greatest expressions of Christmas come from our hearts. And I think that's why Wapaka has really hit a nerve with this Yuletide celebration weekend. Thursday night was the parade. Wayne was out there broadcasting and we were in the parade with Foundations for Living. And it was just like this, last year was this Hallmark moment, okay? You go down Main Street, all the lights, Santa, the Grinch, Salvation Army guy from us, and all sorts of things, ringing bells. And then as the parade ends, Santa's in this big fire truck with a bucket on the front, and just very festive. It's a scene right out of the Hallmark movies when the parade ends and everybody walks down Main Street and stands by the tree and gathers together. It's a pretty cool thing. And then you have an event like yesterday with the cookie walk in town, where you buy a tin for $25 from the Historical Society or the Chamber, and they always sell out, but we managed to get ours, and we saw a lot of familiar faces out there. And they give you a map of every store that has a free cookie for you. Okay. It's not free. You paid to get in, but and it's just so much fun. It's just a lot of people smiling and cheerful and all of that. But why is it then I can do that on a Saturday morning? We're all gathering cookies where, hey, carolers are going in and out of stores. It's again, a Hallmark moment day. And stopped for lunch at the new Mexican restaurant there. Fantastic, by the way. It's open now, but then you do the same thing. If I was to go and do that on Tuesday morning, you might see somebody like, hey, how are you? And they'd be like, leave me alone. It's because we're back in the hustle and bustle of everything. What if we were a little different, with the joy of the Lord in our hearts, and maintain that same excitement that we had at a cookie walk, at a parade, when things are going good, all of those things, to reflect who Christ is to other people by the essence of Christmas that we are celebrating. And so this Christmas, let's embody God's love by slowing down to serve, give, connect with others. It's getting to be one of my favorite times this week when I get to sit down and write out Christmas cards. I actually enjoy that. I enjoy that immensely for the church and for other people that I do that as well. We do a photo card from our family, but for the personalization thing, I love sitting down and writing out 40 Christmas cards. It's just my thing. Christmas music going, Christmas cards. But what if we're able to enjoy those times more? So rather than feeling pressured to fulfill every social obligation, let's engage in acts of kindness, share meaningful moments, express our love genuinely. When we focus on loving others, we reflect the true spirit of Christmas. Why? Because Christ first loved us. And if we become a Grinch or a Scrooge this time of year, understand this: we understand. we get it. Schedules pull us in a lot of different directions. In the next 2 weeks, I have 3 volunteer Christmas parties going on, but they're going to be fun, and I enjoy it. But at the same time, if we keep piling on, if you keep piling on, people are going to see the Grinch. People are going to see the Scrooge. Rather than saying, you know what, that's a really cool event, but you know what, I'm going to have to say no to it. Why? Because I want to sit in my recliner for one night and enjoy an evening with my spouse, my kids, or if you're single, by myself. I get it. No one ought to be offended at those sort of things. So, as we celebrate Christmas this year, I would encourage us to remember that it should be more time of a hush than a rush. To hear from God, to reflect on Him, to enjoy family, enjoy what you want to do. And if you got time, go to the White Elephant Party. Those are fun too. Let's have the ushers come back up this morning.